It's a skill to feel comfortable speaking. It's a skill to feel comfortable speaking in front of a camera. It's a skill to work your way around the room when you're networking. And it takes practice and it takes a bit of work to get there.
That's Tara Joseph. I'm Cara Duffy, and this is the Powerful Ladies Podcast. Welcome to the Powerful Ladies Podcast.
Well, thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
I'm really excited that you're here. Angie has said amazing things about you. I have had the pleasure of meeting you in person twice now. Let's tell everyone your name, where you are in the world, and what you're up to.
Sure. My name is Tara Joseph. I'm currently in Newport Beach, California, having landed here from Hong Kong 2 years ago, like a Martian who came down to Earth. And I've just started my own business as a communications consultant. My goal is to really work with people to make them great interpersonal communicators. I think it's so important and really refreshing for people as well.
And in the world that we inhabit today, where everyone is their own brand, everyone has a platform for better or worse, we need communication skills at a level that we haven't before, unless you were a celebrity. I see people making content all the time, and I really appreciate that it's a relaxed approach right now. But then you see some videos and you're like, it could be so much better. Like, are you going through social media and cringing? Or are you going through social media and being like, oh, they should hire me. They should hire me.
To be honest, I'm going through social media a lot and cringing. There's some great stuff on Instagram and LinkedIn, etc. There's some content there, but a lot of it feels like a quick fix junkyard. And that makes me really sad because social media gives out so many opportunities for conversation, to meet people, to look at great things, to learn. But it's just become this check, 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 tick the box, and people want to look a certain way. And I just find that false and really sad, because we should be communicating with each other on a much better level. And I think if we lose interpersonal communications, we've really lost a lot. And I'm pretty sad coming back to the States after being away for a long time and seeing that that's not something that people focus on anymore in many different ways. And that's something that makes us special and different. You know, I'd pay money for a manicure. Shouldn't I pay money and really think about how I speak and communicate with my friends, my teachers, my coworkers? Isn't that what my brand is really about? So it's really important to me, and I hope to be a force for good in that.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to take a step back and talk about your past life. Before you came to the US, before you started this business, you were a journalist. Tell me about that. And you were going around the world. Just dive in. Just tell me about it.
Absolutely. So, I was an adventurer from day one. I was born in Kathmandu, Nepal. My parents were there. My father was a field doctor and used to hike me up mountains in a backpack. But I always loved to travel the world and learn. So when I figured out what I was going to do with my life, I was like, I want to be a journalist and I want to go abroad. And I did. And I spent the last 30 years covering stories all across Asia, across Eastern Europe and Europe, Central and Western Europe, really meeting people, seeing what's going on, seeing some beautiful things and seeing some really awful things too. It was a lot of fun. It was a great adventure. I definitely learned how to talk to people and also how to listen to people. And I don't think I can ever repeat that kind of adventure that I had, but it was a lot of fun and it was a great way to see the world. No question about it.
And were you based in Hong Kong for the majority of that time?
So I spent 21 years in Hong Kong. I was based there, but I spent my time sort of going around and covering stories in different parts of Asia. Before that, I was based in London. And again, I was based in London, but I was what was called an emerging markets correspondent. So I spent a lot of time going to different countries and covering conferences and also all types of events as well. I really worked my way up the ladder as well. It definitely was not glamorous from day one. I started as an assistant producer in London, and I got up at 3 in the morning to be in the newsroom by 4:30 a.m. and prep scripts and prep all types of stuff for the people who were higher up than me, and worked my way into becoming a global editor. It was 10 long years of slog and work and absolute passion. And I was really, really lucky to work with really incredible people, really supportive people. And I just learned so much
Yep.
from the people I worked with. And that goes back to what I want to do in this next phase is I just really like collaborating with other people.
Mhm.
And I love bringing out the best in people, and they bring out the best in me. What else can you ask for?
Yeah, no, of course. I've been lucky enough to spend time in Hong Kong, and it's such a cool city. I have not been back since 2020, so I'm very curious how it shifted with the political shifts that have been going on. But it's such an incredible city of how modern and futuristic parts can be, and then you turn down another alley, and it is unbelievably traditional. So
Yeah.
I felt lucky that I've had friends that have lived there, and I've gotten to stay with them and see outside of a hotel as well, which is such a important part. Mhm. What
Absolutely.
and then how did you choose Newport Beach when you were like, "Okay, I'm ready to go back. I'm ready to be in the US?"
Like many things in my life, it was absolutely random, which is why I felt like a Martian when I came here. I left Hong Kong during a very difficult time. It was getting politically difficult. I was in a public position as president of the American Chamber of Commerce and under a lot of pressure from the government and the Chinese government because I had been outspoken about freedom of the press. At the same time, we had COVID there, and COVID became very difficult and restrictive as it was in many parts of the world. My parents were aging. I hadn't been back to the States for a long time. And my boyfriend and I came back for a vacation to see our families. And then when it was time to go back to Hong Kong, we were like, why are we doing this? We should be here now. So we decided to stay, and randomly, my boyfriend was offered a job with his company in Irvine. And so I said, yeah, I'll move to California. Always wanted to visit California. And if I'm going back to the States, I might as well choose a new place that feels like another
Mhm.
country. And California is a country unto itself. So it's a new period of discovery, a new period of meeting people. Part was difficult because I knew no one. And it is a very different place from Hong Kong for sure, and from the East Coast where I'm from.
Yeah. No, I tell people that Southern California has been the hardest place I've ever moved. It was harder than moving abroad. It was harder than moving anywhere else in the US. And I think it catches people off guard because you see sunshine and endless summer and all these interesting things that you can do and all these beautiful places you can visit. And that's true, but there's such a different interconnectedness within the communities here that it can be really hard to find your people where I think in any other major metropolitan area, it's so much easier to find people you relate to and see them and not have them be an hour away. And, just it's a completely different dynamic. So, um, yeah, I think it's underrated of how tricky it can be. But once you find your groove here, it's very hard to leave. Mhm.
I feel that way. It's been 2 years now, and it feels like home. And I
Yeah.
felt that way pretty much 2 years to the day that something had shifted, and I felt like I was home.
Yeah. So, of course, when you've gotten here and you're recreating your career, you have so many skills that you have been taught, learned, figured out along the way that you knew people needed. Was it an immediate choice to start the business, or were you kind of figuring out what next might be?
Well, when I came back, I was like, I need a job. I need to go out, be a power woman, and this and that. And I did get a senior role, SVP of communications for a major international company. I was on the road all the time, and I was kind of doing that thing, but it felt soulless. It
Mm.
really did. I didn't feel that I was able to express anything. I felt like I was just doing it to earn the money and have the status. And it really affected me. It brought me way down. And so I took the step to say, I need to stand back, take a break, which was for someone like me, an A type, taking a break was hard. The first
Yeah.
month of it was very difficult. But I needed to think, now I'm in a new stage of life. What next? What will have meaning to me? Where can I feel I make a difference? All of these things. And took a while. I started talking to Angie, which was a huge help. And then literally I woke up one morning and went, bing, this is what I want to do. I mean, to be fair, I had done some coaching in Hong Kong and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the work. I liked the close rapport with someone
Mm.
and thinking that I was helping someone out, but for the greater good. And so it just seemed like a natural thing to do. And it's really nice to pass skills on. And there's so many different types of people that I hope to have a chance to work with.
I really understand that. It's so rewarding to help someone step into the next version of themselves and to take up that space that they deserve. I have a client who has a similar business to what you've created in the Houston market. And it's been really interesting to see what's showing up in that space and where people do need help. And I mean, I know how much help I need. And I did not start my businesses because I wanted to be the face of them by any means. I just wanted to be doing this work. And there's communication that makes a difference in lands. And then there's communication when you have to do it succinctly and quickly. And I think that there's so many parts of communication that people forget about. And when I'm thinking about, I'm sure you can list more, but what we're looking like, how we're styled, what our facial expressions are doing when we're not talking, all those things. Like we had the events at Neue House in Venice, and the photographer had to prep everyone, and they were like, "Listen, when you're not talking, don't make these faces." Because every time she tried to take a group photo, we never got a good one in a past event because somebody was making some face that they just weren't paying attention to. Um, when you're working with clients, what are the areas that you find yourself diving into on a regular basis?
Well, first of all, everyone can understand that it does take work. It's a skill to feel comfortable speaking. It's a skill to feel comfortable speaking in front of a camera. It's a skill to work your way around the room when you're networking. And it takes practice and it takes a bit of work to get there. And a lot of people think they're the only ones that's nervous, or there's something wrong with me. That's why I can't do this. And from the beginning, I really would like to dispel that for people and let them know that pretty much everybody has some type of anxiety when communicating. B, it does require some skill building and some time and thought and practice before you do these things. And the more that you learn a few basic skills, the more you can, like riding a bike, get up and run. And so it takes time, it takes lessons, it takes a bit of patience and being kind to yourself and really understanding what one's true voice is.
Yeah.
That's really odd in the States, I think, because we all have these images. We're given images every day on Instagram, every day
Mhm.
on television of what looks good, what sounds good, and we try to emulate without even really realizing it. But people being them authentic, though their authentic self is really important and actually really difficult. So allowing people the space and time to develop understanding what their authentic self is and then expressing it.
Well, it's like the authentic put together version of yourself.
Yes.
I think that's the hard part because um, showing up as you are and also showing up again in that we're not given a lot of time often when we have to record things. So how are you? How fast are you thinking and talking at the same time and processing and listening? It's a really interesting journey, and we had someone on the group call the other day asking, what should my, if I'm in a workshop or on a panel, what should my automatic sound bites be to respond to things? And I was like, great question. And I have an example from my client with that. I'm like, like I think people also forget that when we're in those environments where we're in a workshop or a panel or someone's interviewing us, that it's not just a conversation to have casually with somebody, but there's the intention behind it. How do you prepare when you're on a podcast like this or in other interviews to make sure that you can be present, but also remember like why you're doing it in the first place?
Yeah, well, first of all, the important part is giving it time. And no matter what I'm doing before talking to you today, I leave time to think through what I want to talk about, how I want to appear, what my mood is going to be like. And I do take some time to build myself up. So I'm
Mm.
doing more than sitting in a chair. I've kind of propped myself up for this conversation. And I think most people who are in public speaking do the exact same thing. You need to take some time to know what you're about to get
Yeah.
into. It's a period in time and thoughts that you need to prepare for. Because if you're not prepared, it can get very difficult, very snarled, and very uncomfortable. And then it's like a spiral downhill. And also taking that time to feel in control, to take some deep breaths, to say, right, I own this space right now. I want to be engaged in this conversation and sort of turning on like a light switch
Hmm.
and practicing that a little bit. I know that sounds weird, but that's what I think is very important to do.
That's how it occurs to me, like who I am sitting around a table talking or even in person talking to someone can be very different when I'm in podcast mode. And I saw an Instagram reel that Miley Cyrus shared where she was being interviewed about how she prepares when she's on tour. And she's like, if it's 90 minutes on stage, I need 90 minutes to prepare and 90 minutes to recover. And she was talking about how unhealthy it is for her to stay in that on switch mode because she goes,
Yeah.
it's not me as a complete person. So when I'm, on the road and touring every night, there's such a decompression component of being back to normal me versus the ta-da version that is required to hold a space that I don't think anyone ever thinks that they fully deserve. Like we have to like almost like inflate and be like, okay, now we're ready. And then it's like, okay, it's done. Whew. When you look at
Yeah.
oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I think for stars and celebrities who live at such a high octane level, that switching on preparation and then switching off has got to be intensive. They're doing
Yeah.
it all of the time. The expectations are high. All the stakes are high as well. I think for those of us speaking in the manner in which we are, yes, there is a prep time. Yes,
Mhm.
there is a downtime. But what's better is to know that we're being ourselves while we're doing
Yeah.
it, and it doesn't have to be so painful. But that comes with practice and doing it over and over again, where that starts to feel like a natural thing.
When you were traveling the world and interviewing all these amazing people and just finding these stories, as you said, really empowering and also really sad and tragic stories as well. How did it shift how you think about humanity and our interconnectedness?
Wow, that's a really interesting question. I think the stories I looked for when I could do features were stories that people in the US or in the West could relate to, even though they felt they were in such a foreign place. Like in Vietnam, I did a story about a young woman who's a rap artist and what she thinks about and how she goes about her day and builds her music, because that's so relatable to young people in the US. And I wanted to kind of bring those things together. I did a story in the Philippines, for example, about Amerasians, kids who were generally left behind, children of American troops who'd been in the Philippines, and how they felt this yearning to be American, and how they felt about where they belonged and how they were left out. And that's a very human story. So I try to
Mm-hmm.
bring people together in any way I could. I think when it comes to business reporting, it's pretty straightforward that people might understand business in certain ways. But I
Mm-hmm.
really like to get under the hood, so to speak, and build relatable stories. And I found that the euthanasia in particular was a really good way to do that. I did a story in the Philippines as well about this girl who, at 9 years old, was picking garbage with her family to survive. And someone heard her sing and put her onto the Philippine Idol show. And she was an
Wow.
amazing voice and an incredible singer. And she won this idol competition. And her prize was a home, and she had nine brothers and sisters in a house that we would consider teeny, but for her it was heaven. And again, that's a relatable story about singing and finding your way and feeling that
Mm-hmm.
you'd escaped hell, so to speak. And so those are the types of stories that I remember and really cared about.
Yeah. I, all of the traveling and working internationally I've done, whenever I see what's going on in the world, I'm like, why? Like, aren't we past this, boys and girls? Like, do we really think we're different? Like, do we really think that um, there's an other versus an us? It really like cannot process into my brain about how we're still in an us versus them space. And even in our own backyard, the way that we will talk about immigrants or homelessness, and I'm like, these are our neighbors. Like
Yeah.
I, I can't separate the humanity from the conversations that are going on. And I'm like, is the answer to send people internationally? Is the answer to what is it? Like, I think we have the answers. What's the secret combination that will just let everyone relax? Like, relax and be like, lead with love.
I agree with that. And that goes back to the communications piece, because when people talk to each other,
Yeah.
you can relax and learn a lot more about other people and feel safe with them if you can have a conversation or something in common, or instead of seeing what they do on TV or on Instagram or TikTok, you actually have an in-person rapport. That changes everything. We're using our senses. Like when you taste food, it
Yeah.
gives you a different sense of things. When you are in a space with someone and can actually have that interpersonal contact. And you don't have to go far in Orange County or in the United States to do that either. There are many cultures, people with very different backgrounds. It just takes a little effort for people to go and learn about it or talk about it or visit a place where you might be around different people and engage with them. I know it's harder than it seems, but step one is being able to speak openly.
Hmm. If we go back to 8-year-old you, first, I'm curious where you were living at the time. And then, would she have imagined the career you've had in journalism and that you've landed in California doing what you are now?
I think I didn't know that I would end up becoming a journalist, but it makes in 100% sense given where I was at that age, the type of life that I was living, and the interests that I had. So I can see it now. I was often the new girl in school because we moved a lot based around my family's work, and I would have to go in and be curious and make friends. I was comfortable going to foreign places because I'd spent more time in those places than I had anywhere else. It makes good sense. I think what I didn't have was the sense by then that this is what I am going to do. It's not like I was a high school newspaper reporter. I didn't even
Yeah.
write for my college paper. So I didn't really discover it until I fell into it. But yeah, it makes sense looking at
Mhm.
my 8-year-old self.
When you hear the words powerful and ladies, what do those words mean to you? And when they're put next to each other, do their definitions change?
I don't think they do change, first of all, when they're put together. I think ladies and powerful are a very good combination. I think ladies and women are powerful by nature of the fact that we're built to be adaptable, we're built to have children, we're built to multitask, we're built to endure, and we're built to love and do many different things. So I think all of those things are powerful, and I really think women have that in them. Do they always express it? Do they always live up to it? Has there been a time where we weren't expected to be powerful? Absolutely. But it's always been there in us. And I think now, post 1970s, we're just letting it loose. We're letting it out. And it's a great thing to watch. Look at women's sports and where it's going. So many aspects of what women do now, we're just letting it out. All this stuff that we're able to do, along with all the other traditional aspects of what was expected of us.
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting time to see the new spaces women are taking and then the traditional spaces that others are taking, and that's what it's about, like getting to choose what what works best for you in the life that you want. Mhm.
Absolutely. And fantastic for us who have that opportunity.
Yeah.
Some people don't, but I do believe in liberal democracies. We can fight for that opportunity and also really take the time to make those choices. And if we see that curtain coming down on us, there will be powerful women out there who will continue to make sure we know what we're capable of. I was very lucky to go to a women's college. And before that time, I was much more insecure as a woman. But when I got to a college campus and I was surrounded by all women in my class, and everyone was strong and interested in school and sometimes fierce and sometimes competitive, it gave me like this Pilates strength that I built up during that time. And it helped me immensely not, um, not belittle myself and feel excited for all the things that are possible as a female. So I'm very lucky to have experienced that.
Mhm. How have mentors, whether they were male or female, guided you on your path and helped you to get to where you are today?
Huge help from mentors. My father and mother were mentors for me. They were adventurers, and I looked up to them a lot. And they've always been there to spur me on. To the last day that my father was alive, he was pushing me on. And when I worked at Reuters, I was really, really lucky to work with people who always wanted to help or give me opportunities or explain things or cheer me on to try new things. And it's so important. And I think it's still important now at the level I'm at the age I'm at, to find mentors. I
Yeah.
think it's always great to have someone to look up to have a muse that you go, wow, that person is incredible. I would really like to build myself looking at how they do things and learn from them. I think it's absolutely critical to have mentors. And I also now look at mentors in a reverse way. I really like to learn from the younger generation. I mean, really, really like to learn from them. They have so much skill, curiosity, the way a lot of younger people mix technology with incredible drive and ambition. I love it. I feel like I have more to learn from younger people than they have to learn from me in many cases. So there's that kind of mentoring too.
Mhm. For somebody who is hearing this and thinking, I need Tara, who are you looking for? Who can you help the most? Is it anyone who has a brand? Is it people who are going to be on TV? Like, who really do you think you would love to work with and can really shift everything that they're up to?
I'd like to work with anybody who really wants to be their best self and feel comfortable and work at self improvement to feel good about themselves
Mhm.
and be better at something. You know, that could be an executive who's now in the C-suite, who's an expert at at biology or technology or some kind of area sector, but has never really thought about how to engage with people internally, how to talk to their staff, or how to go out and talk to investors, and just giving themselves that time to really build up their messaging and feel comfortable with it and build up their voice. That's one thing that I would really enjoy doing and I think would empower them. But by the same token, I really would like to work with 20 somethings, people who have high potential and high drive, who really don't know how to work a room or don't know how to say what they think is valuable about themselves, and give them that training and time to really grow. Because once they can do that, there will be so much more that they can achieve easily. And then added to that, there are a lot of people out there who feel anxious about the way they speak, be it selling or in a conference room because they have an accent or they're uncomfortable with the way they speak. That's a group that I'd really like to work with, because once they can unlock their own potential, it will
Yeah.
be amazing what they can do for themselves and for the people they work with. So it's really a lot of different types of people. And I want it to be fun, both for me and for them, but also to get them to tangible results.
Well, it's literally giving someone their voice.
Yes.
I'm thinking about what you said earlier on how we mimic so many people, and mimicry is great when you're in a fake it till you make it space,
Yes.
but it doesn't allow you to be the powerful, unique version of yourself that will actually attract the people that you want in your life as clients, etc. So it is hard, I think, for people to clarify who they really are and what their voice is. I see it all the time with business owners when they do incredible work and you ask them, well, what do you do? And they go, marketing. And I'm like, no. And I can help them in the sense of like, here's what you actually sell. But to be able to work with you and really pull out the language around what it really is at their core that they're committed to, I think that's one of the coolest things about some of the communication classes I've taken, and I can only imagine the power that you work with your clients of connecting people to what they actually care about, because that's also a different motivating source for so many things that we're up to. And it's like easy to get tripped up by people and easy to get overwhelmed but when you know something about yourself and what you care about, there's a different platform from which you're speaking and doing everything else on top of.
Absolutely. To have such talent inside of you and do such great things, but not feel comfortable expressing it,
Yeah.
um, it would be great to have people be able to do that. It will make a real difference, I hope.
Yeah. When you look around the world and see everything that's going on and you see the good, the bad, and everyone just also trying to survive on a day-to-day basis, what do you wish more people knew and understood?
I Right now I'm really focused because of what's going on college campuses, for example, and having come back to the States, having traveled in places where people don't have free speech and they don't really have a lot of rights. I really appreciate the US and hope that people recognize that having the ability to speak freely and value other people's opinions, listen
Mhm.
and speak their own opinions is something amazing that we have here and something that should not be lost. And one thing coming back that I see is how we belittle our own country. Of course, we have issues here. We have many issues. But compared to many places I've been and looking at the number of people who would literally sacrifice their lives to come here, I feel sad when people don't appreciate what we have: the First Amendment, the ability to speak out, the ability to steer our political system, the ability to go to school, work and go to school, all these different things that are tools that we have here
Mhm.
with difficulty many times, but this is a place where you can pull up your socks and move ahead. The barriers are smaller here than in most parts of the world. It's been sort of disheartening for me to watch so many people feel like, oh, the US, it's done. Oh, we're such a terrible country. I'm like, come on. People are
Yeah.
dying to come here. It's
Mhm.
crazy.
It's so easy to dismiss what we've accepted as normal. And I do think that on this, like women in particular, are very aware of how quickly things can come and go and shift in the climate we've been in recently. But I agree with you. Not, we're not taking advantage of the things that we have here and appreciating them. And just the fact that there's such simple freedoms that we have that we forget we have the ability to do. Um, it's eye-opening. And I think like many of us too, there's always room to grow, but we have to acknowledge and appreciate where we're starting from.
Yeah.
We're we're good at being hard graders for sure. I'm guilty of that with myself too. When you look at 2024 and what you are up to for this year, what are you excited about and what projects are you kind of chasing after?
Yeah, I mean, building a business and starting from ground zero is a challenge.
Yeah.
And I'm very excited about it, but it's a challenge. And every day I need to be patient with myself, think what the next steps are, do the best I can to build bit by bit. I'm quite an impatient person. So recognizing that small steps are really important and pacing myself and not having huge expectations at the end of 1 week, 1 month, but knowing this is a long-term build is a real lesson to myself. And I feel like I'm learning from just that alone,
Mhm.
reaching out to people for advice and building a community of people who are doing the same thing is something I want to continue doing this year. It's really wonderful. Like I'm just learning from people and meeting people who are brave to go out and do things. So I find the entrepreneur community absolutely fantastic. And the women in the entrepreneurial community especially interesting because they're going for it.
Yeah.
So that's number one for me this year. And then the second part is balancing that with family and time. Regrets for me is that when I worked, I was always working. Family life balance and work were very hard for me. I guess I was a workaholic in many ways, and I don't ever want to be there again. I've
Mhm.
learned a lot of lessons from that. So this year is also about finding that balance and really sticking to it. And I feel like I'm improving, which is great. It's a new me in that sense. So it's a big learning year, 2024. And I'll look at it, I think I'll always look back on this year as a time where I crossed the Rubicon and Tara finally grew up. That's what I told my daughter the other day. Mom is finally growing up.
What does that mean to you to finally grow up?
to feel good as an adult and feel that I can grab both a professional life, and also be there and present to have family, to do activities, to switch off, and to really look at my responsibilities and feel that those are something that I must give my time and energy to and really enjoy that.
Yeah.
So that's what it feels like. It feels good to be grown up. I think, especially in journalism, you're always after the next deadline, the next story. You're addicted to the story, and everything else can go out the window. And it's a great life, but it's also kind of unrealistic. Some people can
Mhm.
never give it up. You live on this deadline mentality. So I'm glad that I had it, but I'm also glad to have been able to move on from it.
Yeah. We ask everyone on the podcast where you put yourself on the powerful lady scale. If 0 is average everyday human and 10 is the most powerful lady you can imagine, where do you put yourself today and on an average day?
Wow, that's a tough question. I'd like to put myself somewhere above 5 in that I've had the drive and ambition to push for change, to tell stories, to break barriers, and really go for it, and encourage my two daughters to be passionate, go for it, and build a better world as well. Um, but I also feel there are women who have really been able to affect major change in the world. And I can't give myself that um, sort of credit. I'm not sure how much more energy I have that I can give. And I'll feel that way if I can really make a difference in helping people communicate well. That's to be seen. And I think that's the purpose that I have now.
Yeah, love that. Um, for everybody who wants to work with you and figure out their message and how to communicate more powerfully and be comfortable doing so, where can they find you, follow you, and connect with you?
Well, they can look on my website, which is makeyourmarkconsultancy.com. It's under a little bit of construction because I just started out. I'm going to be on social media, LinkedIn and Instagram very soon. And they can text me or find me on LinkedIn. I'm really open to just having a chat by phone and figuring out what you want to do, how you want to learn, and how we can work together. I prefer to work with people in person, but understand that virtual is part of life these days. So happy to get on calls with people and really have a chat and then see where we can take it together.
Love that. The last question we've been asking everyone is how can we help? This is a big, connected, powerful community. What do you need? What are you manifesting? What's on your wish list, big or small?
Well, I think people can help by referring other people. And I like to do that for people who ask me. I've had so many conversations with this new community of entrepreneurs who say, "Oh, I think you should meet this person," or "It would be great if you talk to this group." That's just wonderful, is kind of helping each other grow and meet new people. So that's one big one. There are
Mm,
skills that I need to build, certainly managing my own finances and areas where I'm not an expertise in running a business is to help find those people and listen and learn for them. And I'll definitely be looking to you and others to grow in that way. So it's referral and helping others. It's the back and forth
yeah.
that's really, really important.
Well, it has been such a pleasure to talk to you today. I'm really glad that you are part of the local community, so we get to actually hang out in person. And whenever I've been in a space with you, you have this just powerful confidence that's very attractive to everyone else in the room because there's that power in both when you're silent and when you're speaking. And when we had the happy hour recently, everyone was like, wait, what was the name of the person who used to be the journalist that's now doing, like, they all knew who you were. So you are walking the walk about how to leave the impressions and communicate at all different moments. So thank you for that. Thank you for being a yes. And I look forward to getting to hang out and see your journey expand.
Likewise, and thanks so much for having me. That's really kind to say, and I look forward to seeing you a lot over the next year.
Yes. All the links to connect with Tara and work with her are in our show notes at thepowerfulladies.com. Subscribe to this podcast wherever you're listening and leave us a rating and review. Join us on Instagram at powerfulladies, and you can connect directly with me at karaduffy.com. I'll be back next week with a brand new episode. Until then, I hope you're taking on being powerful in your life. Go be awesome and up to something you love.